with everything going on in the world and how dramatic everything has been, the one good thing that is coming out of it is that the environment is getting to take, let's call it a break from us humans and all the destruction we do. And when we talk about corals, we can see how we can keep giving the environment a break and help it flourish after these times are over. Just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Omar Sabaa. I know most of you. I'm happy to see a lot of you here. I'm a PADI staff instructor, and I've been with Deco Divers for the past 3 years. How I'm going to do this is I'd like to first start by simply defining what corals are, why corals are important, then look at the threats that are out there to corals, and how we can help defend corals and protect them. For how this should go is I'd like this to be as interactive as possible. Right now, you guys are mostly on mute. However, I'll be giving you a lot of cues to jump in and talk with me. So just feel free to unmute yourself, join in the conversation. Just remember to mute yourself again when you're done. Sounds good? All right. So let's look at how we classify corals. So what do you guys think corals are?
Rocks.
Yep. Any other ideas? A lot of them do look like rocks.
Plants?
Animals.
Animals, rocks and plants. So,
Both animals and plants.
Exactly, they're a mix of both.
they are a mix of both. Well, at a very broad scale, they are actually a mix of both animals, plants, and rocks. Corals themselves are animals. They're these small animals called polyps, and they come into groups of many polyps, and they live together to form a colony. However, these corals, for them to live, they have a symbiotic relationship with algae, which is a plant called zooxanthelia, and they choose to have houses in limestone. So when you look at corals, you see both plants, animals, and rocks. They themselves are animals. However, what we see as a result is a combination of the three of them. Some corals, however, are like soft corals, or soft corals specifically, don't have that, don't have the zooxanthelia. And as you see with soft corals, they look very different than the rest of the corals, and they actually look more like plants than the rest of them. Corals can be grouped into 4 main categories for simplicity in surveying and trying to identify them. And these categories are based simply on their physical features. So in front of us here, we have 4 pictures of 4 different types of corals. Does anyone know what categories they fall under? Any ideas?
Number 3 is Xenia corals.
Okay, and
We have a brain, and we have a cabbage, and some sticks.
okay. Exactly. So,
sorry, the first one is the acropora.
Yeah. Do you know what category that falls under? So the first one, the acropora, is a branching coral. The second one, the one that looks like a cabbage, is a plate coral, and there are quite a few that look like plates. This is one of them. The third one is a soft coral, and it's important. Has everybody here been diving in Egypt?
Yes.
Okay,
Rani
circular.
Yosef.
Circular.
You know what your favorite dive site?
I was expecting you to ask me. Yeah.
How can you tell that this is Sharkulanda?
The school of snappers, you can find this amount of in Egypt.
Okay. Is there anything else special about Sharkilanda? Who else has dived Sharkilanda other than Romy?
Yeah, I dived there quite a few times.
Nice. What else could you find there, Caitlin?
Drop off,
Mm-hmm.
nice soft corals along the wall.
Yep.
Sometimes if you went through the blue, you might find some big things. Once I've seen a shark. Liked
Nice.
it.
Very cool. Very cool. So Sharkilanda is definitely one of the very special dive sites in Egypt. It's on the top of my list of favorite and other huge schools of fish like the unicorns and the batfish. It is filled with an array of different marine life, all sorts of corals. And the reason why this dive site is so special is on the southern tip of Sinai with the currents coming in from all sides, filled with nutrients. So everything really flourishes there. And this is a real good example of how coral reefs are the cornerstone of marine biodiversity. I would say 25% of all marine life is based on coral reefs, and at least 33% of all marine life nurseries start in coral reefs. Does anyone else have a special dive site they like especially for corals?
Malahi.
Malay. Can you tell us more about Malay, Guru?
It's a beautiful series of pinnacles filled with corals and a beautiful hard coral garden in the middle with lots of towers and pinnacles covered with all sorts of corals and soft corals and clouds of fish.
All right, it sounds very nice. I like it. Anything else? We have a lot of people here that are Gharda residents, Hurghada residents. Can you tell us some of the nice sites in Hurghada?
Hamda maybe. Hamda's really nice.
It's beautiful with the schools of fish everywhere.
Yeah.
Super colorful. I also have a special one that I really like in Gharda, the aquarium, the Gota. And the reason why I think it's beautiful is because of the coral garden. Looks a lot like a maze. And then even though this is a shallow site that is very
Actually,
close
I was
to
about to
shore,
say
you
that, but I
see-
thought it was a little bit corny.
Yeah. No, it's one of the ones I really like.
You really cannot talk about corals and overlook Jackson Reef.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Why is Jackson Reef special?
Well, we learned along the years that the corner of Jackson Reef have quite 3/4 of the different kinds of corals in one spot. So it's a lovely corner. All the time have strong currents. So it's kind of heaven for soft corals. And for the people who have dove this dive, it's amazing. It's one of the spots that you can actually spend the whole dive just sitting in 4 or 5 meters and you don't have to move. It looks fantastic.
Sounds amazing. Anyone else have something special they like?
Brothers, of course. Brothers,
Brother.
of course. The big
Yes.
brother.
The big brothers.
Yeah, there are a lot of hard and soft corals, and the colors is very vivid. Even when you are in a 40 meter, they still vivid.
That's amazing. It is one of the amazing dive sites, and one of the reasons why I think Brothers is very special, both Brothers and Daedalus, if we're talking about it, is that they just come up in the middle of absolutely nowhere, where you'd think it would be a desert, and then it just flourishes with life because of this reef system that comes up out of nothing. And it goes to show that when you have corals, you have life. Another reason why corals are very, very important is because they help protect our coastlines. Let's have a look at this video. And what you can see here is that gray part on the bottom, coming down from what we can call a shoreline here, acts as what corals would do. And if you can see that the waves are coming and hammering against the coral instead of hammering against the coastline. And if there wasn't the reef there, you would see the waves hammering against the coastline itself, and that would cause erosion, and it would really, really limit your ability to make use of the coastline. Coral reefs have also been found to have very medical benefits. They are used in biomedical compounds and lately have been used in bone replacement. Another great reason why coral reefs are super important to us is their benefits to tourism, and this is where we as divers come in. But it's not only us divers. Do you think coral reefs can support other sports and other travel options other than diving? Any other sports that are interested in coral reefs other than us?
Snorkeling.
Definitely snorkeling.
Fishing, sadly.
So snorkeling is fishing, of course, yes, and sadly, of course.
Hotel.
Exactly. So, so coral reefs are a staple of all coastal tourism areas, and it has been found that a coral reef can make the potential revenue of corals is 25 times larger than of fisheries. It has also been found that a square kilometer of coral reef can generate as much as 3 million US dollars a year, adding to that around 100,000 to 600,000 of supplementary services like that was just mentioned, restaurants, markets, and all that that survive just because they are around somewhere that has coral reefs. That being said, this all has to be managed very sustainably because just like we've seen in a lot of very touristy areas, that they put a lot of stress on the coral reefs, and this diminishes their ability to flourish and grow, and then affects the monetary value we can make out of them. More importantly, it affects them and it affects our environment. Now let's talk about threats to coral reefs. So in front of you here, I've listed a few of the main threats that affect our coral reefs. Which ones do you think are the most threatening or cause most damage?
Fishing.
Fishing is catastrophic.
I would say
Water
climate
temperature.
change.
I
Climate
think
change,
water temperature.
water temperature, which is an effect of a result of climate change. Exactly. Climate change is probably the most catastrophic, the one that has the most catastrophic impact on coral reefs. Unfortunately, for example, this year, the Great Barrier Reef is going through its third mass bleaching event in the past 5 years. In the past 5 years, this year is the third time the coral reef, the Great Barrier Reef has gone through a mass bleaching event. Last year or the year before when this happened, 80% of the corals bleached out in the Great Barrier Reef. Other things that are really catastrophic are definitely fishing, as you can see here in the picture, especially since the fishing practices around the world right now are absolutely unsustainable. Overfishing is just the way it's done. You can see by like these boats, these trawlers, they throw on these nets and these nets just graze and wipe up everything in their path. And also a lot of land-based activities. And you'll see this on all the coastal cities where how they get rid of their waste and how they get rid of their how they discharge all the agricultural and industrial waste. It all eventually ends up in the ocean. You can also see that coastal development has an impact, and unfortunately we can see this in our beloved Hurghada, that because of all the hotels, all the corals that are on the coastline have nearly died out. And that's why there is very few offshore shore diving options in Hurghada. Now, I know that was a bit sad, but let's look at what we can do to make a difference. So let me ask you, what do you think you can do from your home to help save the coral reefs? Do you think there's anything you can do from the comfort of your home to save coral reefs?
Use less plastic.
Definitely use less plastic.
Donations.
Donations definitely help if you support the entities that are helping save coral reefs. I know they definitely need them.
Planting new ones.
Planting new corals is definitely an option, but what can you do from home?
Spreading the awareness of coral conservation.
Exactly. Spreading the awareness is also very important, but there are things you yourself can do in your everyday life that will help protect coral reef. Like, for example, being more conscious about your water usage. So if you use, for example, special shower heads, or just are just conscious about the water you use when brushing your teeth, if you close off the faucet going into the sea, and thus saving the coral reefs. Another simple trick is if you change the temperature on your air conditioning from 21 to 24, you save energy and then your aircon has a smaller carbon footprint. What's great about this is you also end up saving money. So in front of you here, there is a flow chart that shows all the different things you can do at home that can help save coral reefs. So if you just put your email, or just say, I want this in the chat, and then I can send this to you by email after we're done. Sounds good?
Good.
All right. Now let's have a look at what you can do while diving to be a more aware diver and help save the coral reefs. Any ideas? I can start this out by saying, be a role model. Show good behavior. Show other people how it should be done, and then
Have
they'll
better
follow you in
buoyancy,
your
Omar. You need to help me with that.
have better buoyancy. And why do you think, Sharky, having better buoyancy will help protect the reef?
Well, if you keep on kicking and you have zero buoyancy, you for sure you will kick the corals and break them.
Exactly.
We have seen it so many times, للأسف.
Yes, unfortunately. What else, guys, can you do while diving?
Pick up waste when you can.
Definitely. So dive against debris. Pick up the waste. Any other ideas? Don't touch the corals. Exactly. As much as you can when diving, try not to touch anything at all. Don't touch the marine life. Thank you, Reham. Misha, it sounds like you have a story there. Okay, so Project Aware has given us 10 tips that will help us protect the reef. So as Sharky said, be a
عمر
point.
لو في ستوري خلينا نسمعها. يا ميشا لو في ستوري في البتاع قول لنا الستوري دي.
Guys. Well, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. It happened to me like 3 times. And I'm a complete freak when I'm having a buddy. I'm the one who's near the corals, that I end up like somebody's looking so close to something in the coral or a fish or something. So I end up being stuck like a gecko to the corals by the end of the day from my body.
Okay. And did someone end up pushing you into the corals?
Yep.
Oh God. Must have not been a nice experience.
Nope.
Yeah. Also, as Misha said, definitely don't push your buddy into the corals. Thank you, Muhammad Ali brought up a really nice point that photographers, when taking photos, be very careful. because we see it a lot of the time, and the photographer will try to save himself by touching a coral or putting a hand on a coral to get a good shot, and that is definitely something you don't want it to do. Also, always remember, take only photos and leave only bubbles. You can also make very conscious choices when choosing your destination, choosing the hotel you're going to stay at or the operation you're going out with. Choose someone who is eco-friendly. Choose someone who is aware of the options of the environment and is actually active about taking care of it. Take a pledge to protect the underwater life. Make responsible seafood choices and give back to the environment. I also have this in a much bigger handout that I would be very happy to send you guys by email. So now that we've seen what you can do while diving, let's see how you can take it further and be a coral activist or be an environment activist. I've put out here 3 organizations that do really good work for corals. The first one is Coral Watch, and the thing they do is coral surveying, where they find out, they use people to actually survey corals, and they've developed a very easy, simple to use system. Has anyone seen this slate before, the Coral Watch slate?
Yes, and I've quite could teach some students with it.
Oh, very cool. Can you tell us about that experience, Khaled?
It was very cool, and getting the students to know how to know the difference between dead corals and live corals, and know what kind of corals are they through this chart over here, that it tells you the color of the coral. When it goes towards the white ones, it means it's bleached out, and the others, when it goes to the colorful one, means that it's full of life. And if you flip the slate itself, it will tell you what type of coral is it, as you mentioned earlier in this webinar. Yeah.
Very cool. And is this something that is easy to use?
Yeah, definitely.
Very, very cool. So I personally have this slate in my diving box all the time. I know quite a few friends of mine who do the same. The reason why this is very cool is that it is, as Khaled said, very, very easy to use. You can take it with you anywhere. It's just a small plastic slate that you can take, attach to your BCD or put in your pocket, have it with you on all dives. And basically what you do is you survey the coral health, or you try to identify whether this coral is healthy or not by using the color boxes around the slate. And then after the dive, you go up and you put it on the Coral Watch website. And that way they get information from dive sites all over the world, and they can use it to identify stress locations and healthy locations and try to figure out what's happening in these locations. Another great organization is the Coral Restoration Foundation. And basically what they do is they plant corals and then reincorporate them into the natural marine environment. The reason they do a really good job is because by accident, a few years back, they found out that to grow corals is a very time-consuming process. However, if you break these corals into very small parts and form a nursery out of this, the corals will grow around 5 times faster. There's a lot of ways you can help out the Coral Restoration Foundation. And the way you can do that is either visit them and go diving with them, and there you help on the programs, you help on the nurseries, or you can just simply donate. They also have a lot of educational material that you can use to spread the word about corals. The third organization, and this is the one I really, really like, is called Glowing Gun. And the reason why this organization is really cool, because it helps you become an activist and support corals without actually having to be a diver or go in the water. So basically, if you have some creative skills, they have put out these color pantons here, and you use these colors to build a campaign to advocate for corals. You post this on their website, you post it on your social media, and thus you help in spreading the word. And another great thing, if you want to learn more about this, is you can watch YouTube. It's available on YouTube now, a documentary called Chasing Corals. Netflix has put out on YouTube for free for everybody to watch during this quarantine time. and it shows you really what happens with corals and why they glow. Huh. Do you have any questions, guys?
Yeah, can you send all the links?
Of course, I can put it in an email and send it to you after this session. I'll be happy to do that with everybody else.
Okay, there is a question here. You said earlier about the corals, they are useful for medical use.
Yep.
So how is how are we as human beings harvesting them without destroying them?
The best way this is done, the most sustainable way this is done, is that these corals used for medical use are being grown. Of course, not everybody does that, and some people will be unsustainable about it. But people who actually want to use this on a wide scale grow their own corals, just like you'd see in a coral aquarium.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so if you'd like to learn a bit more about corals, we'll have a Project Aware course running next week where you can get certified as a Project Aware diver, especially in part of the coral health. This will also help build up to your master scuba diver if you want as a specialty. If you have any other questions, you can email me. My email is up here. Please do follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, on YouTube at Deco Divers. And that's basically it. Thank you, guys.